Hey, Baylor fans, this is your call to gear up with Harley-Davidson of Waco. Whether you're hitting the open road or tailgating at McLean Stadium, we've got the ride to match your Bear pride. Check out our wide selection of new and pre-owned motorcycles, visit our service department, or shop all the latest gear and accessories to show off your Baylor spirit and Harley pride. Visit us today and find your freedom on two wheels. Harley-Davidson of Waco, where Baylor fans never ride alone. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com. Sic Em Bears.
Welcome into our Sic Em Podcast presented by Harley-Davidson Waco. And so with Harley-Davidson Waco, we like to go, with motorcycles. I think that applies today with our guest. It is Kehri Jones, former Baylor track standout, and now making a name for herself with the U.S. Olympic team, bobsled, luge, all that good stuff. Really fun. Kehri, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Can we drop Coach Ford in the grease? You want to do that right off the top?
Let's do that.
Okay, good. Because we had him on the Coaches Show recently, and we were just talking about a number of subjects, and he brings up you and what you're doing, training in Waco. You graduated a few years ago, but training for the U.S. Olympic team. So that's where we got this information. So we don't want to put you in a bad situation at all, but we're just going on Coach Ford, okay?
Uh-huh.
Very good. So congratulations to you. This is a neat deal. Tell us where you are in this process right now.
So actually, I formally competed for the U.S. Bobsled team where I was on the national team. I became a world champion and continued to hold quite a few start records. I took some time off and I had two handsome boys and I decided that I wasn't finished yet. So I called up my coach and I let him know, I'm ready to do this. I want to make another run at this. And I started back training, and this upcoming year is actually going to be Olympic season. So it's going to be a lot of training and testing and racing to see if we can make that Olympic team.
Gotcha. Wow, that is so cool. So I normally don't do this. What do they say? Never ask a woman her age. But you graduated from Baylor. You were track and field here, 2011 to 2015. So you are about 30, maybe 31. Is that right?
I am right. 30.
30. Very good. So you're in your prime here for this bobsled. How did it begin? How did this whole thing begin that you were on the radar and you tried out and won a spot on the bobsled team?
Yes. So the way that it actually happened was one of the Olympic drivers, Ilana Myers-Taylor, emailed Coach Ruth, who's our strength and conditioning coach at Baylor, and was asking about athletes. And on my last season, we were winding up at regionals and nationals. Coach Ruth asked me, are you still wanting to compete? And I'm like, yes, I still have the drive to compete. He said, I got this email from this Olympic driver, and I think that you would be really good at this. And so it's ironic because I watched this race at the previous Olympics, and Lauren Williams was pushing a sled, and I was often compared to her for body type and running style. Wow. And she did really well. So we started training up for it. I went to rookie camp and I won the push champs there. They invited me back to the national push championships where I pushed against all of the veterans, and I got second place out of the field by 1/100th of a second. Wow. And that really just started my journey in bobsledding.
Gosh, that's great. So your background, you were a sprinter when you were here, right? I remember 60 indoors, 100 outdoors, 4x1. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. So that is, that's your background in track. And then is that what makes you somebody that can fit into this position? Or you said body type. What is it about your makeup and your skill set that makes you, a person for this position?
So notoriously what you will see in bobsled, are the girls are a lot taller and they're a lot more muscular. I don't fit the typical molds of a bobsledder. I'm shorter, I'm a little lighter weight. But what happened in the sport of bobsled is there's weight restrictions. So there's a max weight that you and the two athletes can be. And just before I started, they decreased the weight restriction. So everything had to be a little bit lighter. So it made it advantageous for me to push a sled, but I also was a very powerful runner. And so it made it translate a lot easier for me versus somebody who is a little bit lighter and they're more of a light runner.
Gotcha. Is this something that kind of came out of the blue when Coach Ruth talked to you about it, or is this something that you had thought about, maybe possibly trying?
It actually came out of the blue. He just approached me one day and I was like, you know what? I've seen this, and Lauren Williams was actually somebody that I looked up to as a track athlete. So naturally I was like, if she can do it, maybe I should try. And I didn't expect to be good at all, especially looking at myself compared to all the other girls that were out there. But I just happened to be really good at the sport. And so it made it very interesting. It made it for a new passion.
That's so cool. All right, educate me a little bit on this. People who know the sport better than I do, they may be scoffing at this, but the positions on the team, you have a driver and a pusher or two pushers?
So the way that it works for the female side of the sport is we have two-man, and now they just introduced mono bob at the last games.
Oh, okay.
And so for the two-man, it's a driver and what we're called are brakemen or brake women.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's two of us pushing the sled to get it started, and then the brake person hops in the back of the sled, and we kind of just hang on for the ride and let the driver do what they do.
Hang on for dear life, right?
Yeah.
I kind of remember it from Olympics past, but what speed do you get up to on these bobsleds?
Depending on the track, but some of the faster tracks are 150 kilometers per hour.
Oh, gosh.
It is really intense. It's really fast. And as the sport develops, it's just getting faster.
Yeah. Wow, man. And there's some danger to it, too. I mean, you got those blades and you're going that fast and on a really, obviously a very slick surface. I mean, this is kind of, flirting with a lot of danger there.
There is. It's a lot of it. And a lot of it is really on our drivers because they have what they call D-rings in the sled. And they are literally driving the sled on a pulley system where these runners make very slight turns and it gets the sled where it needs to be. And any wrong movement or any wrong turn, you will tip over and you will crash.
Golly, wow. Well, you've been part of it in the past, like you said, the World Cup. A women's bobsled World Cup, silver medal there, a silver medal also in the World Cup in 2017, 2018, and then back to 16. So you've been doing it a few years, haven't you?
I have. So I actually started right after I finished track and field in 2015 would have been my first season. And I competed all the way up until the games, winning World Cup races. I still own quite a few start records, and actually winning the World Championships, the second ever for U.S. women.
Wow, fantastic. Congratulations. What's the start record? What is that? How is that the time that it takes you to get things going? Is that right?
So at every track there is the start. So that's where I am vital. I get the start, the sled pushed as fast as we can to get the highest speeds. And each track start is a little bit different. And so the start time is going to be a little bit different for each track. And so each track has a record. So the fastest that's ever been pushed there. And it can vary from 30 to 45 meters, how fast we can get that sled going.
Wow, unbelievable. So what's your training look like? You're working out training here in Waco for the most part. I don't know that we have a bobsled track here in Waco. What's your training look like?
So we like to say as bobsled athletes that in our off season that we sprint like Olympic sprinters and we lift like Olympic lifters. And that's kind of just what our training looks like in the off season. We're trying to get as fast and as strong as we can. And then once we get closer to season, we actually start doing the specific push training where we go out to New York or we go out to Salt Lake and we actually push a sled and kind of get those mechanics going.
I got you. Very good. So, what's the time frame? You're here working out now. We're over the holidays a little bit. How long will you be here before you go to one of those places?
So each year is going to be a little different. And so this year is going to be a little unique because before we can have an Olympics at a track, we have to do what they call homologation, which is we have to go down the track. We have to practice there. They have to make sure that the track is safe and we have to have a race there. And so for this coming Olympics, the track is not finished. So we wouldn't be able to homologate it at the end of the season, which would normally happen somewhere around February, March.
Gotcha.
So this coming up season is going to look a little different. We're going to do our national championships, which is a qualifying race that has to be done, is actually going to be done in March instead of in October when it's really done. And then at the beginning of the season, which would be October, we will go to homologate the new track. Something else that's happening that's never happened before is they're having a backup track for the Olympic Games this Olympics. And so although the goal is to have the Olympics out in Paris, there is a backup track, which is actually going to be Lake Placid, our home track where we train all the time.
Yeah. Wow, that is so cool. Lake Placid, a lot of history there when you think about Winter Olympics. I mean, this is going way back before you were born, but the 80 Winter Olympics there and the training or some of the structure is still there, right? That y'all now use in training.
Yes. So the old track is still up at Lake Placid. It's there for historic reasons. But there is actually a new track that was built. It's still it's still been there quite a while. But it's what we call our home track. So it's where we train and where we do all of our preseason testing.
Yeah, very good. So you've been on World Cup, World Championship teams, the Olympics. This would be your first go around as an Olympic team member. Is that correct?
So the way that bobsled actually works is you'll make the World Cup team. So last Olympics, I was on the World Cup team, but I wasn't actually named to the Olympic team for various reasons.
Okay.
And so it's going to go that way again. So I have to make first the World Cup team, and then we'll go through the World Cup season, and then they will name the Olympic team just before the Olympics.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, it's fun to know that you're a part of that, and it'll be fun to watch you through the process. I remember, do I remember this right? Like way back, Herschel Walker, who was a great football, guy, and didn't he get into bobsled a little bit himself?
Yes, I heard that Herschel Walker did get into a little bit of bobsledding. I don't know the specifics and how involved he ended up getting with it, but I did know that.
Yeah. So he was a football player, obviously strong and fast, like you. Does bobsledding draw from different sports? Are a lot of the competitors from track and field or what?
So what we typically see from bobsled athletes is we'll have softball players, we have track and field athletes, and sometimes we have now getting more involved like acrobatics and tumbling athletes. They're powerful, they're strong, and they're quick. So it's a combination of sports.
I got it. That's very good. Well, we've got the best acrobatics and tumbling program in the world here in Waco. So maybe,
Sic Em.
Right. Maybe some of those student athletes can end up in bobsled as well. You're from Killeen originally, or did you go to high school in Killeen? Is that right?
I did. I'm actually a military child. So I was born there. We kind of traveled around and came back. So I did graduate high school from there.
Gotcha. Very good. So you got some pretty deep roots here in Central Texas, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Very nice. Well, it'll be fun to watch you. What's next in training? You just continue training, or what's next in the timeline of getting you to the Olympics?
Yeah, so the focus right now is mainly on training and sponsors. And we just continue to train and push. In March is when we'll have the national team trials. So I will be going out there to do that, and that will be the start of my comeback.
Nice. National team trials, will that be at Lake Placid or where?
They haven't announced the location, but normally
Okay.
it's at Lake Placid or it's in Park City.
Gotcha. Very cool. Ooh, two great parts of the country. And how do you feel? I mean, you took some time. You did this. You took some time away. Now you're coming back. How do you feel about your preparedness and your training right now?
There's always a little bit of nerves coming back to the sport, even when I was in there and I'd been there for a few years. There's always nerves. I think this time I am more focused and I'm more prepared than I feel like I've ever been. So it will be exciting to see what I do. But I'm really excited.
Good. This is, I mean, you're doing it this at the highest level. Is this full time for you?
So actually, because our sport is not funded at all, a lot of us have full-time jobs. So I
Okay.
do work full-time, and I work out and I mother. So it's definitely a lot, but like I said, I'm more motivated than ever, to go out and get this gold. And it's just, we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, I got you. Well, that is more than full time with everything that you're doing. What about the setup here at Clyde Hart Track and Field Stadium and the Baylor facility and everything? Does this give you everything you need here?
Absolutely. I'm so fortunate to be able to have my coach who trained me to run the fastest that I've ever run in my life. My strength and conditioning coach, who has trained me to be the strongest that I've ever been in my life. Both of them amazing coaches, still on my team and still coaching me. And they know me. They've known me since I was 16.
Mm,
Now I'm 30. So they know, and I can get the best training out of them. So I've been very fortunate to be back at Baylor and training with the top of the line facilities.
nice, very good. And are these Baylor coaches you work with, or are these personal coaches?
These are Baylor coaches. So Coach
Okay.
Ford and Coach Ruth.
Gotcha. Very good. Two great guys there. That's great.
Yes.
Well, Team Jones, man, sounds really, really cool. What have you thought? Have you let yourself think ahead? If you make the Olympic team and you're in the Olympics, you got USA on your uniform and you could win a medal and they're playing the national anthem. Do you let yourself go there and think about that?
I do. It's been a dream of mine, and I was so close I could taste it the last time. So I'm ready to be back there, and I'm ready to raise that bear claw up and give a good
Yeah.
sick 'em on top of that podium.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Well, we hope it happens, and thanks for enduring some pretty basic questions from me, but fun to learn more about it. And we're pulling for you, and we'll watch those trials when they come up in March for you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on with us. We appreciate it. Kehri Jones, former Baylor track and field standout, looking for a spot on Team USA in the bobsled, and that'll be fun to watch. That's our Sic Em Podcast. It's brought to you by Harley Davidson of Waco.